Max talking. When we were younger, we had been taught. When we were living as an atheist, we were taught that all religions are made up, all faiths are made up. We were taught that God is evil, or the Christian God is evil, because the main reason was he demands love and appreciation, and if he does not get it, then you go to hell for eternity. And then eventually we grew up, and personally, we kind of already knew that for us specifically, I think deep down we had an understanding it wasn't what was right for us. And we do want to say not all atheists are anti-theists. That is actually a different thing. It just sometimes goes hand in hand. And because we were raised very specifically under an extremist form of anti-theism, atheism, we do feel that a lot of religious trauma was passed down to us, specifically, primarily religious trauma towards the Christian faith. And so when we got older and we realized that's not what was right for us, we delved really hardcore into like witchcraft and stuff. Really for the last 4 years at least we've been practicing, but we've only been using any labels for the last year because we did our wizard initiation ceremony on New Year's of 2023. So after that point, we're comfortable using any like labels or anything, because we reached a point where we realized, yes, this is who we are. We're a wizard. We're comfortable labeling it now. We usually say we're a shadow magician. We were formerly a theistic Satanist, which are different from other kinds of Satanists, because most Satanists are actually atheists. They don't believe Satan is real. It's more of a, how to put it, it's more about, I think, the vibe, or like the villainous feel to it, or like leaning into the drama of it, but most of them don't actually think Satan is real. Whereas a theistic Satanist is someone who definitely believes Satan is real. And there are actually exceptions to that, because someone can be religiously a Satanist but not actually theistic. And what that is like someone who is like a part of like the Satanic Temple, for example, might be religiously a Satanist, but they still don't actually believe in him, so they wouldn't be theistically a Satanist. But also, it's all kind of semantics, and people can use these words interchangeably sometimes, which does confuse things a lot. Anyway, we're no longer using that label because it's no longer an accurate reflection of our current place as a wizard. We still hold all the entities we were formerly followers of in high regard. The main distinction now is that we're not seeing ourselves as below them. We're not serving a god or worshiping a god in that way, because those things are now serving us. So instead of being like a follower or a servant of a shadow god, instead, that shadow god is something that we're on equal footing with, we would say, where like they didn't want us to be a theistic Satanist. They made it very, very clear they didn't want us to keep worshiping them, and that they wanted to instead have us focus that energy on things that would better serve us instead of serving them. And for that reason, and also personal reasons, we decided to no longer be a theistic Satanist after that conversation with them. So currently we're just a shadow magician. We were mostly on the left-hand path, and now we're sort of, I guess, in the middle path after years of being in the left-hand path, which is weird, but our methods are still mostly coming from like chaos magic in the left-hand path. But the reason what we wanted to talk about was actually that because we were raised in a way where we were heavily warned against all things of like a monotheistic nature, and the Abrahamic faiths, but specifically Christianity in particular, we realized that because of that, even though we're like an omnist, which means really we think all faiths are real for the people who follow them, and all things are like conditionally real. Like we think there's actually reality is sort of a made up illusion is one of the things we believe. But because we were warned against Christianity, because we were warned to stay away from like the mythology and like, well, I mean, not the mythology, we were warned to stay away from all of that. We've actually found that a lot of our craft, our witchcraft, is very, very heavily inspired by certain Abrahamic faiths ideas. And one of the things we did like earlier in our craft, and we still do, is heavily like researching different things. And mostly we research things from the Abrahamic faith because we were taught to fear it, and because we're a shadow magician, which means we face fears and like we face shadows and learn to find power in like not being afraid and in facing things authentically. For us, we've actually found it very, very therapeutic and a pretty integral part of our craft to find what we like or can honor or can appreciate about different faiths that we were taught to fear as a younger person, and sometimes we incorporate that into our faith. A lot of our favorite angels are in the Book of Enoch. We have not actually read the Book of Enoch yet, which is, we probably should, honestly, because I think at least 2, maybe 3 of the angels we are particularly interested in are in that part of the Apocrypha, which a lot of people don't consider the Apocrypha canon, but I mean, all religious scripture to us is divinely inspired, or equally divinely inspired, equally as valid as it is unvalid, and equally as usable to us to garner insight into other worlds from. But I guess we just wanted to say that we think if you teach someone to be like fiercely against a specific group of people, one of 2 things is going to happen. Either they're going to grow up to be just as biased and resentful and upset at that group, and that will just perpetuate an endless cycle of othering people. And you know, one of the excuses we hear a lot is like, oh, well, they, you know, historically Christians have like abused pretty much all of the minorities we fall under. And that is true, but we don't think that it excuses doing the same back, or just like across the board. Like it's still a bias. It's still saying this group of people is bad and I don't want anything to do with them, right? And like every human has biases. Every human does that to some extent. But I'm not going to, if I consciously realize that I have a bias, I'm not going to like play into it like that. And so we're not Christian. We don't consider ourselves Christian. We don't have any interest in being Christian, but there are many things in stories that we connect with. And one of our most favorite ideas that we do actually consider a Christian idea, we think it originated from Christianity, is the idea that angels can become demons and demons can become angels, because in a lot of faiths they're like separate species, sort of, or like seen that way, whereas like in Christianity the idea is that actually like angels can fall and become demons. But then by that same logic, we believe demons can actually become angels, and that there's like significant overlap. That's one of our favorite ideas there, because we think that expands the potential a lot for some different things. We are kind of getting off track because our head's not letting us stay to the point, to the line, but we will say that at this time a lot of our craft is heavily inspired by things like the Sephirot and the Qlipoth in Jewish mysticism as well. That has very heavily inspired us as a chaos magician. Things that inspired us with like the other Abrahamic faith Islam is that jinn has the idea of like jinn has very heavily inspired us, because one of the first things that actually like stopped us from being an atheist, one of the first events that like was so shocking to us that it like foundationally changed a part of our beliefs, and from that day on we were actually an agnostic from a time because it was like just that big of a, and then after that we were an omnist soon after, but was that we summoned a jinn with our sister a few years back. I think we were either 19 or 20, and that experience was like one of the foundational experiences of like, okay, well clearly spirits are not just made up, because we really don't believe our sister just was able to come out of nothing. And that experience was really profound for us and impactful to us, and we think that one of the things we love about the idea of jinn is that jinn are actually a lot more like people than a lot of different interpretations of spirits. I mean, they don't like that comparison. They don't really like to be compared to humans. But what I mean by that is not like human people, but what I mean by that is that they can like eat. Some of them, they can like eat, they can like drink alcohol, or like fluids, they can have kids, they live in like their own villages, and also they can have different religions, like literally, like it's part of the belief in jinn that they can actually choose their own like religions, just like humans. So they have like free will, where like jinns can or jinni can be like, there can be Christian jinn, there can be Muslim jinn, there can be Jewish jinn, and there can actually even be, I mean, we would assume polytheistic jinn. So like one of the things we really like about that is like how just that like adds to the spiritual world we would feel, and that we just think that's really cool, and we just really like, definitely our favorite spiritual entities, just full stop, are angels and demons and jinn. Those three, like, and in demons we're also including Satan's. So like angels, Satan's, and demons, and jinn, all of those three are like probably our top favorite. But we also just kind of like spirits generally. We just kind of like all the spirits, which is part of why we don't follow any specific religion, because that way we can interact with as many spirits as we want. But yeah, we really like spirits. But we, you know, it's interesting that the spirits we gravitate towards are spirits from monotheistic faiths, and the spirits we work with the most, angels, are deeply associated with Christianity. Even though actually the angels we work with are more, we would say, like Jewish in origin, because or like I don't I don't really know. There's a lot of overlap, but so anyway, we just wanted to share that because, like, we think, you know, if you teach someone to be against someone, either they're going to grow up to continue to be against it, or they're going to grow up to find something in it that they like and follow that. And I think that it is possible for people, even that don't necessarily follow the rules of a religion, to be able to appreciate different elements and incorporate that into their spirituality. For us, we just, our favorite part with all of the religions personally is just how it expands upon the spiritual world and adds more types of beings, because we believe like all of the beings can be accessed and spoken to, of all the different faiths. And it's just a good way to like find different beings and learn about them. All right, so that's all we're going to say for now. Max out.